All right. Welcome, everybody. We are excited to get started here in just a couple moments. Thank you so much for joining us today. Gina, it is a pleasure to see you, my friend. There's so many great people on here. I'm not going to try to name them all because we'll take up the entire time doing that. But hello to everybody. As you're popping in, actually, I'll wait to ask my question until we get going live on Facebook as well, which we'll be doing here in just a moment. What up, Angela? And get our live stream going. Beautiful. All right. Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce Ted and Mike to join me on video as we dive into this unique episode of Weekly Sessions. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here this week to talk about Intuit, all the updates that you guys have been working on, especially, it wasn't that long ago, Ted, we had you on here and we were talking about the changes and improvements that were coming to the ProAdvisor environment. So I'm super excited to do this follow-up session.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Matthew. Great to see you and great to be here with Mike as well.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate getting to meet you and connect to you as well. This is our first chance to have you on, and I'm sure you will be welcome back anytime. We'll let you know afterwards, but I'm sure it'll work great.
If I get kicked out after the first time, you'll have to let me know that too.
Exactly. I'm going to real quickly, we'll get our presentation started just for the day here, do a quick little intro for everybody. And then I would love to have you folks introduce yourself and we'll get rocking and rolling right away. So share screen. So obviously you guys already know we've got Mike and Ted both here this week. I just want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor for this month with Weekly Sessions. It's Corpay. Corpay is will actually be doing a live demonstration with us next week. And just want to say thank you for helping bring Weekly Sessions to everybody. Truly appreciate it. With that in mind, Ted, would you please tell us all about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, myself. Love talking about myself. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Ted Callahan. I'm the leader for our accountant team here at QuickBooks at Intuit, which means I'm responsible for getting to know you and your clients, your firm. What are your needs? How are we doing? What are we doing well? We need to keep doing, and what are the areas of improvement opportunity? I've been at Intuit for over 4 years now. I just had my 4-year anniversary, which was exciting, and live in sunny California, not as hot as Delaware, but more humid. It was 90% humidity this morning when I was getting out to exercise. So really excited to be with all of you, and I'll turn it over to Mike to introduce himself.
Real quickly, did you get a cake for your anniversary?
I did not.
We'll send you one. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to learning more about your role as well. So please introduce yourself to the community.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. My name is Mike Mioduski. So if you can figure out how to say that the first time out, you get the gold star.
I didn't say the last name on purpose.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one, right? It's not too bad once you've lived with it for 40 years. So, anyway, I am based out of Tucson, Arizona. I've been at Intuit for over 15 years. So I've been through a lot of the various transitions that Intuit's gone through in terms of disrupting itself and building itself back up. And I've been very tight to the accountant space as well as the customer success space over all 15 of those years. I loved Intuit so much that I actually left midway through and came back as what we like to call a boomerang. So this is my second stint. I'm about 8 years into that. My current role, I'm here to drive all the transformation that we're trying to manifest within the ProAdvisor support space. I know what it takes to turn this around. We have a great team around us to help us get there. We didn't get here overnight, and so it's going to take us a little bit, but you've got my commitment to making it turn around.
Thank you. So I have a job here, gentlemen, today. My job is to engage both of you to find out some questions, find out what's new and exciting about support, And I'm excited to hear about that part, but I'm also here to ask the questions of our community. So I will, of course, do my best to do it in a respectful manner, but I appreciate you guys being that channel to the corporation for us. So thank you. Thank you very, very much. I know that we've got a little bit of information that I was going to share, a couple slides, and then we're really going to have more of just a conversation itself. So I'll jump back into slide just real quick here. And Mike, I believe you wanted to kind of talk about some of the stuff we've got here of the customer success improvements, right?
Yeah, let me jump in and bridge,
Sure.
maybe, Matthew. So for those of you that I haven't met, I've been in the role of leading our accountant team for the last 10 months now. And I think one of the surprises that I had coming in, the delight has been getting to know all of you. The surprise on the negative side has been you all are so specific about the pain that you're experiencing on customer support. And I was very surprised to hear about all of this, because when I looked at our dashboards, we've got Intuit, we love to metricize everything. That's probably not even a word. We love to create a metric for everything. And our dashboards on customer success were bright green. And yet the feedback that I was hearing from all of you was so consistent and so intense about the pain that you were feeling about customer success. I said, hey, I'm going to go dig into this. We have over 35 million care contacts globally a year in terms of the forms of different calls and chats and emails. So lots and lots of folks are calling in for help. And you would imagine with that kind of volume, if your dashboards are green, it's hard to know where you've got a problem. But you all, we have this saying internally, no one holds us accountable like our accountants. And once again, you all were proving that maxim true, saying, hey, Ted, if you can do anything, go fix accountant customer support. And specifically, I heard a lot on payroll. And so as we started digging in, hearing your stories, Mike did an amazing job running roundtables and really pulling all of the qualitative data from every source that we could to pull together the point of view that you're seeing on this slide. So just a little bit of context of how we got from hearing everything to why we're talking about this issue, and why we're kind of reflecting back. Here's what we've been able to learn as a result of this deep dive that we've been engaged in for the last 6 months. So Mike, over to you to talk through what we've been hearing.
Real quickly, Ted, the poll is in. Everybody's going to give you the word. What was it? It was metricize, but they're not going to give you the Scrabble points. Sorry. Mike, take it away, my friend.
All right, I'll shoot for triple word score off this slide for sure. But so again, loud and clear to Ted's points. Like just before I get into the themes, we actually have a fairly robust set of instrumentation within our customer success organization. And so what we have found is that while it was showing green is what Ted was saying, was mentioning before, it was misleading us in certain spots. And so that's where all of this voice of customer comes out and really helps us understand at depth the themes that you've got. So if you want to pop those themes back up again real quick, that'd be great. We could just talk through them real fast.
Absolutely. And the analogy, I'm sure people already get it, right? But if we look at all of our company files and we've tried to figure out what meals are, the bigger the data set, it's harder to know exactly what's going on without getting quantifiable data that you can dive in deeper. So
yeah, that's right. And especially if you're not necessarily looking at the specific question that you want to go after versus say the broader set of experiences. And so the specific things, these are this communication, right? You see the follow-up question in here. And these are actually quotes. Some of them are direct and some of them are summarized from the themes that we heard from these various listening posts. But agents saying they're never going to follow up, right? Or they follow up and they never do. Challenges with that language, depending on where you end up in that support call. We've got issues with trying to, in general, the number of experts that are available to you at times of the year, right? How many times did, hey, why randomly in the month of April did I have to wait, 15 to 20 minutes to get to somebody or longer, right? In some cases in peak, it could be an hour or an hour plus. And so how do we get our staffing nailed down for those millions of contacts that we're going to take throughout the year? At the quality, by the way, I can put people in seats in an instant. That's not what's going to help you get your questions answered faster. I need people that know what they're doing, which gets into the sort of, hey, we need that front line to not only be able to support the product, but really understand the theory behind what they're supporting. They don't need to be an accountant, but they really should be able to engage with an accountant around the general concepts, right?
So I want to real quickly, I want to interrupt you there because this is one thing I've been very vocal about that I think so many people tend to forget. When you're calling in for support, you're contacting them for support on the UI UX, how to use the application itself. Traditionally, they're not hiring an accountant. They're not hiring a payroll manager that knows every unique scenario. I mean, geez, I've been doing this for 8 years and I don't know everything about payroll. So making sure the expectations are correct of what support's supposed to be. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to.
No, that's great. And part of what we've heard loud and clear, for the longest time, what we've been trying to do is sort of create the unicorn, right? The one person that can understand all of Intuit's offerings. And by and large, we've been able to create some, but it takes a long time to get there. And so what we've heard loud and clear from this community and others is, hey, get good in online or get good in desktop, right? Get good and solid in one of those platforms, earn the right, to be able to have to bring those together. But start in one of the two and get great in those areas first. I don't mind the transfer as long as, you've got a clean process that way.
Yeah.
And the person I'm talking to knows what they're talking about. But the last couple I'll just hit quickly, right? Making sure you're getting to the right expert quickly. There's a lot of bouncing around. There's a bunch of problems as to why this is the case. Some of it's data driven, some of it's choice driven based off of how people come in. And so we can get into more of that if you'd like in terms of the experience that we need to improve. And then loud and clear. I can't say loud enough. Payroll and payments, actually it's both, right? But the money movement aspects of our products, we need experts to be better at and understand at more depth. There's also some questions around just ownership within Intuit, around taking ownership for penalties and not penalizing clients for that. And so there's some questions on that front as well that we need to get. But that last comment of I'm tired of training your support staff. If there's 85 folks in here, I can't see the numbers, so my apologies. My bet is that everybody's like, yep, I got that one, right? I don't need to be spending my time teaching you the job that I would expect you to understand.
So I think this is a good time to I'm going to post up a poll real quickly to everybody that they can kind of answer, both Facebook and in Zoom. And I think that may help on some of the trajectory of some of the conversation itself. So the first poll really that we'd like to know is, when you're contacting support, what's the most challenging area when you're contacting them? I'd love to hear from everybody their thoughts to it. And give me a moment here as we do the same thing, both places. We'll give it just a couple moments here as we get through all of it, but that is a pretty quick, resounding answer that I'll share with everybody here shortly. Right off the bat, right now we're seeing agent knowledge, 70%. Wait time is coming in second, 15%. Resolution, 11%. And follow up around 5%, still bouncing just a little bit. So thank you guys. Thank you for that information. It's definitely good detail there. And agent knowledge was the popular one in Facebook as well. So some of the stuff you talked about, we've actually had a couple comments that have kind of come through that were aligned with everything that you were talking about. Agent knowledge, the time-wise, everything else. I have to tell you, one of the things I just learned yesterday in our QB Community Live group is when you have support tickets, there's actually a resolution center you can go to and see any of your open support tickets and what's going on. I didn't even know about that. That's can you tell us maybe just a little bit more about how that works? And I think it's a value add that most people don't know.
Where were you exactly? Sorry, just make sure I'm understanding.
Sure. Kind of real quick off the cuff question. So inside QuickBooks Online, when I'm in my account area, if I go and click the top gear icon, I can go into tools. At the very bottom, there's Resolution Center. Mm-hmm. And I never until Alicia Gatz-Pollock told us responded yesterday, hey, you can go to this place and see any of the open tickets you've got to kind of follow up along with how things are going. I don't know that people are familiar that even exists.
It's a good question. So I'm going to play a little bit of a new card just because of the role that I moved back into.
Sure.
That's actually something I need to go look into more myself, because you just informed me about something that exists in our products that I need to learn a little bit more about, and how can we potentially leverage that at greater scale. I think it's a great call out, but not one that I've been super tied to. So thanks for making me aware of it, and we'll definitely get all over that.
I've got some,
I've not heard that either. So let's also make sure that is something that actually exists.
Yeah.
If you don't know about it, that's a surprise.
Or it's labs or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll come back.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take acknowledgement. I break stuff all the time. So maybe I like, whoops. So, but
you might break stuff, but I don't think you just randomly invent things either, right? So if it was there and that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Jeff's saying it's there, but it doesn't work in the chat over here.
Got it. Okay.
So, okay.
Can I come back to your community with that, Matthew?
absolutely. We had some other comments and questions about that are kind of correlating, and maybe a better way to say is ideas of how to make something like that very powerful, but we can come back around to that. So,
Right.
So we basically, these are the things that you've heard from us at this point in time, right?
Yep.
And your priorities of how to improve the experience. This is what you guys are currently working on.
That's right. So you want me to take you through this at a high level?
Sure.
Great. So again, 4 key areas that we're focused on first, and these are in priority order. And so our first job is that we've got to do a better job of recognizing that A, you're an accountant, B, the level and tier that you are currently at, and regardless of sort of the way you choose to connect with us, like whether that's calling us directly, whether that's coming in through product. I will tell you right now, if you come in product, that is by far and away, that means going into QBOA through the help panel, right, and choosing that callback. That is the most successful method of getting a hold of us, because we know so much more about the individual that we're speaking with at that point, because you're starting in product, versus if you call us via the 800 number into the accountant specific phone line, yes, we'll do our best to get you there, but it's only a phone number that we have to look up, as well as then the intent. So doing a better job of getting you to where you need to go. That's sort of job one.
Okay.
The second is going to be, then I showed onshoring US support, right? So making sure that we are bringing back our support into a geography that better understands the business acumen, as well as just the interaction models that you guys are all looking for. This is, all of the things that you see on the screen, we have a very hard push to get these things in place prior to December, as much of it as we can possibly get, right? We're trying to prepare for that big peak run. Some of it you're going to start to see already. So for our premium and our platinum and our elite ProAdvisors, our expertise is already onshore, right? Like for the vast majority of those. The routing might still be a problem, right? You might still be getting sent to a place you don't expect. And so we've got it's a multi-layered problem that we're trying to solve on that front. Let me pause real quick there, and then I can get you through the other 2 areas, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So now, one of the things that I understand, I mean, obviously, when you're bringing somebody up into this type of a role, it takes time to train them accordingly because of the different environments, right? Can you share with us a little bit about what that training looks like? I mean, we've had a lot of people that are saying, hey, we'd like to see people that are advanced certified. We'd like to see people that have the same skill levels. So can you dive in a little bit deeper? What does it look like to become a support person for us?
Yeah. So the beauty of being here for 15 years, I remember what we did, well, maybe not 15 years ago, but fairly far back. And we've done this a couple different ways over the years, but currently the way we do it is that we take you up through the chain. So you start, generally speaking, at QBO or at desktop, right? The base knowledge of the product. And then we will layer in additional functions like payroll, like payments. And then once you've met that, you have to be performing at a certain level within the metrics that we talked about, that we measured, in order to be able to reach the accountant support community, right? And so you're already getting, just by virtue of being an accountant, you're already getting the best of the best, right, of what we have to offer. Now, there's challenges that have happened as a result of, last fiscal year and what got us into the space we're in right now, like in terms of where we had to make compromises to get people there and available for you.
Yep.
But we're at the point now where we recognize where those are, and we're addressing the payments and the payroll and just the base theory of the case as we go. It generally takes us right around 6 months to get somebody from beginning to end through all of that training. And if you think about how long it took you to become an accountant,
I was waiting to say that. Like, I wish I could have learned everything in 6 months.
But again, you're looking at, Intuit's not, immune to the macro events of labor like the rest of us are as well. And you think about the current environment we're in right now, labor is a tough one. So finding the right people, making sure they've got good backgrounds. We're starting to experiment with other ways of bringing people in who already have some of this background in place today. We actually have about 150 folks that are going to be onboarding over the course of the next several months that start from our tax operations. So they actually have an understanding of how tax works and some of that. So we're playing with ideas like that that'll help us move with pace there.
So what I just heard from that is you guys are testing and seeing if there are ways to actually get professionals into the role that have a bit more accounting knowledge, like to be able to help give more guidance to us. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's right. The other thing I'll mention is we have this really great certification program that you just mentioned. Like if we could leverage that, we will start to leverage that with our frontline experts. So we'll start them with the base certifications. And the idea would be that anybody you're speaking to that's in our accountant team actually is ProAdvisor certified. They're not going to be listed on the website. So you don't got any competition there, right?
They're all Idaho.
We're going to put them through all of that. We used to do this years back, and it was highly successful. So we're going to get back to what we know works.
So people, if you have questions, I've got some questions saved, but if you have questions you want me to be asking, please put them in the Q&A. It makes it easier for me to see that stuff. Okay. Just so you know. One of the things that, I mean, I've been very vocal about, and I know other people would agree, just food for thought for you guys. When I'm calling in to support myself, as everybody says, that idea of agent knowledge, what that stems from is if I'm advanced certified, if I've been doing this stuff for X number of years, I don't expect them to have the same level of knowledge, right? But I would love to see that they are advanced certified as well, that they have that better insight, better knowledge. So I know if you guys agree with this, give me a yes in the comments, please. I know that they would love to hear it. Any thoughts on that part? A couple yeses.
I think it's a yes for me as well. And as we mentioned before, again, this is going to be a layered approach to getting us back to where we need to be. And so advanced certification, I can totally see it. We've got to be able to keep people in that job for that period of time. So if you think about the time it actually takes us, attrition of labor is something we'll have to keep watching. So we got to motivate, right? Make sure we're rewarding, keeping people where they need to be on that front.
We've actually gotten some great advice from Facebook. Basically, everybody is suggesting if we can just clone Dan DeLong, that would be a phenomenal answer.
Dan's one of my favorite guys, man. I've had beers with that guy before. It's great. If we can make like 60 Dans and do that a couple times a month, we'd be set.
Dan's the man. But they can't all have that same voice, man, because it just makes me really jealous when it comes to like, hello.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Anyways, so let's move back on to the next of our three there, which we've got is minimizing your wait times. Minimizing your wait times.
This is a standard operational issue. So just making sure we know, right, how our forecast and our volume is coming in at the times of the day that it's coming in. As you get into the millions of things, scale gets a little funky. And then also as you think about that growth path, right, of ensuring we get quality experts available to you, we've got to make sure we do all of those things at the same time, while then making sure we get the right number of people where we need them. And so we're going to be going through a transition, right, of getting all of our voice support during our business hours onshore for all accounting tiers. Okay. That's happening. We will make the biggest push we can to make that happen prior to peak. I'm bullish. I think we can get there by the time that peak rolls around. Sorry, by December in that time frame, and be prepped for January. And so we'll see how all that plays out for us as we move forward. But that's our game plan.
This is a good time to ask the other poll that I wanted to ask everybody. Talking about phone support, how many people are actually using the callback function? So let me post that poll for everybody as well and see what they had to say there.
Inside the product callback function, right?
Thank you for clarifying that. So inside product, you've got the ability, hey, request a callback, and there are some benefits. You mind kind of sharing with everybody the benefits of doing it this way as they're answering the question?
Sure. First and foremost, it's actually the most secure way to get a hold of Intuit. Not so much an issue with accountants, bigger issue on the small business side. There are definitely third parties out there that purport to be Intuit support and then end up causing lots of problems for our customers. So that's kind of benefit number one. next benefit is we know who you are more, not in a creepy way. Sorry, I don't mean to make it sound that way, but in a, like, we can actually make use of where we need to be able to put you, because you type in your question, right? We know what company you're coming from, and we have a much better shot at making our data make sense, to where we need to actually route you. Those would probably be the two biggest benefits of coming in product versus out. Ted, I don't know if you've got any other.
Well, and the big one I was going to say from all of your perspective, who are listening in, is what I keep hearing from you is those of you who do use callback, you get a knowledgeable agent who resolves your problem with a much higher probability than if you go and call your old ProAdvisor number or whatever number that you've got available and you sit there on hold. And so that was the surprise, the consistency with which I've been hearing from the community, that when they use callback, they get a much better outcome. And I'm seeing that echoed in the chat live here.
So we had 75, I think it was 75%, we just shared it was people are using the callback in Zoom. Interestingly, the Facebook one, smaller sample size right away, it's actually 75% the other way. But we're talking 60 versus, 6 type thing.
And it's, the choice is there. We don't want to take away the ability to dial directly. There's lots of reasons why you wouldn't be able to get into your product. Maybe you're calling us from your, car. If you're doing accounting inside your car, like, amazing. Find me and show me how that happens, because I'd like to see it. But we've got to be able to do
talking to a car audio guy, right? I can tell you how to get internet in your car and all that kind of stuff.
I love it. Let's sit down and show me how that works. But yeah, so it's got to work on both fronts. It's not to say don't, but definitely there's one that we know right away works infinitely better, because we know more about you, right? That's just simply why.
So to try to relate that on a different analogy, way back in the day, I was working with a company, LedgerSync, and I helped them kind of set up their Zendesk on the backside. And when people would log in, the support, you can find out automatically, like an ID number and what kind of company file it is, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. That just helps give the context that's necessary to start the conversation on the right foot, is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. So all of our experiences, whether it's direct dialing our 800 number or coming in product, if we recognize you, like, we're going to provide that information to our agents on the back end, and they'll be able to see that. We recognize you more frequently right now inside the back experience.
All right. So there's a comment here I absolutely have to give a shout out to. It's from Sandy, and it's please eliminate the hold music.
Oh my God.
It's awful. And I always joke about the nightmares I've had with the on hold music. Can we get a Rickroll on there? Maybe something else? People, if you got a better idea of audio, maybe put in the comments as well, but
no Coldplay, but yes, we'll figure that out. Yeah.
So then go ahead.
There was another set of, a couple of people were asking, hey, I'm hearing that it's faster. You already know who I am and you can identify me more easily. So why do I have to answer so many questions if you're calling me back before I can just get into the meat of my issue? Mike, obviously we're interested in resolving issues as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Why that rigmarole? Can you just give the community some insight there? Or do you think there are opportunities to streamline that process?
No, I think there's opportunities to streamline it, right? Like, if you're coming in through Call Me Back, it should just be straight to an agent. Like, at that point, like, there's no reason for a lot of the rigmarole. So there's some design problems that I think we need to address on that front, Ted, and loud and clear, right? So that would be my short answer to that.
Okay. Great.
We always saw something like that with good old QuickBooks time. It's like you log in, and we've learned, we just say, hi, my name is Matthew. I'm with Parkway. I'm contacting you about this company. Here's the company ID number. And then they would always ask the same questions again, which would be somewhat frustrating. But so everybody, just, I am seeing questions coming in. We're going to go through just a little bit more, and we will then bring up the questions. I'm not forgetting or missing them. We'll come back to those just so everybody is aware. So the last one, number 4, real quick, is what we had kind of pending here, which again was our building our agents' knowledge across payroll and payments. And you've kind of touched base on this already, but a little bit, deeper specifics of it, I guess.
So there's some updates that we know we need to do to our our agent training. And so in the payroll space specifically, right around our top contact drivers is where we're focusing our time and energy, like the payroll setup and forms and all of those good things that come out. So they understand the theory of the case, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So we are updating that actively. We have a whole new lineup as well that we need to make sure we're clear on. The second big thing that we're doing is with our content. And I think if you guys have been into Intuit content of late, right, like some of it's better than others, right? And like, so it's mismatched, and how do we make sure that that's been culled through and gone through? We are actively in the middle of it. We're probably about 20% of the way through the content on the payroll side, with an aim towards the kind of beginning to middle of September to complete that work. And so that will make it easier for experts to find answers to the questions that you may have that they may not fully know right off the top of their head. And then the last thing that we're going to do is completely surround our frontline experts with more tiered support. So I saw the question before somewhere in here around, hey, can I get to the next tier of expert faster? And the intention here is that, yes, like, it's not to just start your conversation off with tier 2, right? Or whatever the magic word is. We need to have that first person be smarter and more effective, as well, but that it doesn't drag on for 30 to 40 to 50 minutes, because that's all billable time for you and your firm, right? To be able to put to better use. And so we will put more resourcing around tier 2. Again, like I said, in that starting now through the next several months, that's going to be our game plan to get that bolstered up.
So I heard one thing that I wanted to ask about, because you said there is a magic word to get to tier 2.
There isn't one, but I mean, if you want to get to the next level of
support, I kid.
We'll definitely right? So,
it's been a
build one in, right? So
it's been one of the challenges over time that definitely, like, when we hit that barrier of, hey, we try to do the nice thing, we try to be helpful, like, this is our challenge, we try to explain, and we're just hitting our head against the wall. There needs to be some kind of safe word that just allows us to respectfully expedite it past that. And there's actually I'll bring it back up in a bit, but there's some great suggestions that came out of some of the comments from our group, where people were talking about they need a way to give feedback on the call based on multiple criteria. So Intuit knows which agents need more education and in what area they need more education. So, like, what areas did the agent have or lack expertise? 10 stars on QBO reports, 2 stars on QBO payroll, stuff of that nature, just to try to help engage you guys to help. We want to help work with you to help us at the same time.
Yeah, those are great opportunities for us to go after. So there is an end of call survey, but it's tied to when the case gets closed. That's how that works today. Okay. And so there's obviously opportunity on that front. Like, not every call gets that opportunity to be surveyed. I think there's probably also other ways. Ted and I were brainstorming on ways that we could potentially make it in product. So, like, how could you start to, provide more, thematic feedback inside product on a number of fronts? That would be a place for us to potentially look at as well. So there's, I think, a couple ways to crack that nut. But the survey you get at the end of a call, when those come, that would be the loud and clear way to communicate that. I
gotta tell myself, like, so what we're saying, everybody, I'm telling myself here first, if you don't do the surveys, how do you expect it to get better?
Well, and the themes that you just heard and saw from that slide, like, I spent literally a month reading through all of this stuff. So if you don't think it doesn't get heard or seen, there's at least me. I know Ted looks at it, and many of our other teammates are looking at that constantly.
So Ted, I'd love to hear your feedback. I've been kind of watching you as we've been talking through this stuff, and our first conversation some time ago talked about ways we were looking to improve this. How do you feel you are in this journey? How far along in the journey do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I've been watching, I'm reading the expressions as me reading each of these different comments, and I'm like, ooh, that hurts, or ooh, that's a good input. So hence the facial expressions. I do not have a poker face, just putting it out there.
Are there any of them you want to call out, or like?
Well, I think there was one that I wanted to circle back to. So what I would say is, I think we have the great news that I would say is, I think many of you are familiar with the fact that we have a semi-annual group of accountants we pull together, where we take them through a bunch of, here's our product plans, and they're all under NDA, so we can talk more clearly about what's happening. And as part of that, we have different executives come meet with accountants as well. And we've been bringing Sasan, our CEO, to these sessions, and he made it very clear. Customer support is fixing accountant customer support is the #1 issue that he is asking his leader of customer success to go solve. And so I think that's the #1 thing. Like, we have the attention all the way up to the CEO on getting this right for all of you. So that's the first thing that I would say. Like, we have awareness of there's a problem, and that's why we've got somebody like Mike, who's just a total all-star, in to be leading the change to fix it. The second piece is, we've talked about these big areas of change. Mike has a extremely detailed plan with lots of initiatives under each of these objectives that he's pushing all the different teams in customer success to go move as fast as possible, because everybody looks at that and says, we need it sooner, because all of you are telling us with a ton of passion, your clients are not happy with what they're getting. You are not happy. We are not happy, right? So do we agree that there's a problem? Yes. Are we satisfied with your current experience? Absolutely not. Are we all in on making a change? Yes. And then what I was going to then transition to is, I think it was Regina, was poking on, hey, what is the timeline for this, right? Like this, it sounds too high level. And so Mike, can you give just some sense of, for some of these big changes, when can who expect what change, just so that it's real? Because I don't want the message to be, oh, we've heard you and now wait, right? And so I think there's some change you can say it's already here. There's other change that's going to take a little bit longer, but just so people have some sense of what to expect by when.
Yeah, let me break it into a couple areas, if you guys don't mind. So the onshoring that we just described, that's going to be a couple month effort. Again, we got to get quality people into the space to be able to support you. We're already seeing that the benefit of being onshore for Platinum and for Elite, right? So that's awesome. Gold and Silver is coming along for the ride as well. Don't worry about that. We're looking probably towards the end of November, beginning of December to complete that work. That's going to be voice, right? We're focused on voice. We're not focused on chat prior to peak. We'll worry about chat and the challenges there after we get through that. The second area I talk about is the expert knowledge. And so training is just about finished. We're supposed to be done, I think it's next week, with the updated training for payroll. We're going to put a remediation of all of our folks that currently support accountant through that. They're also going to go through the ProAdvisor certification. That will take us a couple months to get through, just to make sure we get everybody there and still answer the phones. So you're looking at a couple of months, probably in that October timeframe, we'd be done there. And then the knowledge set update that I talked about, all the knowledge articles around payroll and payments specifically, we are putting a big push on that. We believe somewhere by mid-September. But again, you should already start to see some of those articles being updated and reflecting it. So again, some of it is happening in phases, and you'll start to see the benefit now, versus, that onshoring piece is probably more of a switch. It's going to happen, all at once, because we'll have people move when they're at the ready, if that makes sense in that time frame.
As an avid content creator and a person who loves to do training, I'm going to make a suggestion or an offer impromptu. I know a lot of phenomenal educators and trainers that I'm sure I can speak on their behalf as well, would love to team up with me to do a meeting or a session. And if you ever want to ensure that the training of your people are top notch, what better way than to maybe pass them through us?
Call it done. We'll make it happen. Matthew will follow up after this, and we can figure out how to potentially organize something along that front.
Thank you for all my friends. I just offered for free. So, but I love it. Thank you for the timeline. The idea of these things that are coming forward, it makes sense. That obviously the phone communication first just makes sense, right? Chat is a different environment. It's easier back and forth, that it doesn't have to be onshore. And I just like the term onshoring. I mean, as somebody that does outsourcing, I love the term onshoring. So I'm glad to see that there's energy and effort being truly put towards that. Yeah. Before I go, I have some questions that came from our group. We had actually asked a poll of what questions would people like us to ask? Before I dive into that and ask them those questions as we start to kind of wind down, were there any other touch points that you guys wanted to draw attention to before I bring up these other questions? Anything I forgot?
I think I think we've covered it, and I don't want to repeat myself for all of you, because I know you're listening avidly. But I just think I want you all to know we hear you. We're prioritizing it. The platinum and the elite, you should already be having your calls answered by onshore agents. The gold and silver, that's coming as quickly as we can get everyone trained up to the bar that we know you want them to be trained up to. So we want to make sure it's not just onshore, but it's the knowledgeable person who can resolve your issue. Yeah. And then we're doing all of those other pieces, how we route, making sure the articles are up to date. Love the idea. And I love, thank you, all of you. I was going to list your names, but everybody started saying, yes, I'm in to help. I just love how all of you are so, such amazing partners. So thank you for that.
Together we all succeed is what I always say.
Yeah, I think, Matthew, real quick. And then the top tip of the day, if you aren't using in-product callback, call me back, check it out, right? Like, and let us know, like if it's not meeting your need there as well, but that's until we can fix those other spaces, that's probably the fastest way to get to the right spot.
So I'm going to power through some of the questions we've got. We've got about 11 open questions. Some of them we may have already touched base on, but I want to at least draw attention, make sure people are hearing it. The one that seems to have been voted up the most actually is Joanne Beck. Joanne, good to see you here. It says, I've learned that by using certain keywords when using the callback feature, I get more precise support. The problem is no one told me that. Can you please give us a list of keywords to help us get where we need to go? So is there something that's doing an algorithm to search for keywords, or is it just maybe they're?
No, absolutely there is, and there's a reason for it, right? We call it intent mapping, right? So what's the intent of the question that you're asking? And we probably have within the accountant space 40 or 50 intents that are large buckets of questions that people ask. And so we try to read through something called natural language processing, right? The intent that's coming through, and then is it a payroll intent, but not just payroll? Is it payroll setup, or is it about forms, or is it about, right? Like, again, just that's what we're trying to break down, and how well do we do that then determines, right? Like if you end up in the right spot or not. And then I think to the question that was asked, like, what can you do to type better? If we're doing this right, you really shouldn't have to know that, right? Like you shouldn't have to know how to type, right? Like how to cheat the system, because system shouldn't have to be cheated. Like you should get to the right spot just based on the question that you're asking. Let Intuit figure that part of it out. So I think that sounds like there's feedback on, hey, that intent probably didn't work right, or however else you got where you needed.
Yeah, I think the intent of the question is, this is another opportunity for us as accountants to say, hey, we want to work within your system. So if you tell us the rules of the game, if you give us an idea of like, if we do these, if that will help you get us to the right place, we're down to do it, right? Yeah. You can even ask us more questions to begin with if we need to. So good question, Joanne. I learned something new there as well.
But if I understood it right, it's how to help you navigate, right? And ensure you're in the right spot. If there's tips and tricks we can provide on that front in the short run while we're fixing the longer term design issues.
Yeah. And I think the other, sorry to jump in. I think the other piece here is, because all of you accountants represent, right? You've got a portfolio of clients you're serving, you are a heavy consumer of customer support. And so the better ways that we help you navigate our system, it gets you to the resolution faster. And so are we honoring that you're the more heavy user of our system so that you can move through it faster, right? Like it just totally makes sense to me.
Yeah. And I just got Joanne's note around premium payroll. Like that's interesting, right? So what I can do, I'm going to take all this back, by the way, guys, to our team that's looking at the intents, and we'll address it there.
Yeah, I will get as much of this information back to him as possible, the polls, all that type of stuff. Most important, if there are other questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, direct message me, and I'll be more than happy to be that channel to get more information and connect where I can. I try to be respectful and just not give contact info away, but everybody here is always upfront to try to be here and do whatever we can. And real quickly, I want to give a major shout out to Sandy Edwards with payroll. She's the bomb. She's awesome. I just got to say that. So Sandy, you rock.
That's awesome. Yeah, she's been a fabulous partner on solving all of our payroll issues specific for accountants. She's a product leader in our in the payroll organization, but she's become part of our accountant team. Yeah, to be driving all of that change. So it's awesome to hear, Matthew, that you're seeing that.
I totally am. I've seen major improvements there. Yeah. Sandy, there's another Sandy here that was asking a question. I'm going to touch it lightly because it's not directly on topic, but it's an area that definitely I've felt the pain of, which has to do with when you're trying to deal with like master admins and resets of company files, so forth. I know that you guys have already been working on making some of that better. So if we can just draw attention to that in the support area, that's definitely an area where can be painful for us in the future. At least I feel we've acknowledged that part of it. So so Regina said increased support is great to hear, but I want to know what you're doing about client payroll transition and onboarding this 90%. So Regina, I think this is a phenomenal question. I think this is going to be one I'm going to put to the side because I'd actually like to bring Sandy on to talk more specifically about payroll. And I think that would be the better department to really address that. But reach out to me directly and I can try to help get you connected and get you information. Lana was saying, how would you like us to respond to surveys when we'll have to talk to 3 agents on a call? Well, there's usually one survey when the whole thing is done. Definitely hear what you're saying. Trying to get you to the best person. The whole point of this whole session is how can we get you to the right person the first time? How can they improve that to improve the experience? So I look forward to following back up on this, 6 months from now, and hopefully we've got more thumbs up on all that stuff. From our group, and sorry to be rushing through, I always like to be respectful of time. We're going to go a little long today, but not much. And some of this stuff we've already kind of talked about. So the group questions you've already discussed, will it be easier to request a higher tier support right away? And again, you guys spoke about this of trying to make sure there's better training going to people that recognize when they do know the stuff or they don't, and being able to get you transferred over to somebody else a little bit more efficiently, but you're really focusing on making sure the education of your agents has improved. Is that a good summarization?
Yeah, and the speed to resolution, right? So we want to make sure that the right tier is there for you when it's needed. And so yes, like you shouldn't have to be sitting there with that same frontline expert not making progress for X amount of time. So we want to address all of that, and we are addressing those things. Yes.
Okay. And request a callback will help with that. Of course, getting to the right person. Already talked about this idea of the advanced certification. So thank you for that. We also talked about this one as a part of the callback feature support, having those initial questions. We've definitely talked about that part as well. And before we go to that part, Ted, were there any others, we close it down, were there any other questions or comments specifically that immediately drew your eye that you wanted to address since we've got the community here?
I don't think so. I mean, I was reading through them all real time. I mean, I just, what I would say is I love all of the feedback, both what you're liking and what's not working. This is exactly how we make it better. I've been screenshotting everything that I can, but if we can get the complete chat, and I don't know if there's also a chat happening in the Facebook that I can't see, Matthew. It'd be great to get both of that, because that's what Mike and I can take back to all our teams to take all this great input and continue refining. Absolutely.
So everybody, Mike, what do you think? I think he deserves to come back again. What do you guys think? I like him. So if you think Mike's done a phenomenal job, say yay, Mike, in the comments. Let's bring him back. Ted, I do this to you every time to say, I'm going to try to get you to commit. I love having you back here. I love doing these meetings where we can. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to have these conversations on behalf of our community. So thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Mike, for joining and taking the community through all of the improvements that you've been driving. So it's fabulous to get all this input.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Mike, you're hired, it says. So as we get ready to close, for some future events real quickly, we've got coming up the rest of this month. So again, next week, we'll be doing a live demo with Corpay, talking about, their system, about a better way to handle accounts payable, bill payments, so forth. I'm really looking forward to it. Again, they've been great to us in helping to sponsor this month. So definitely want to attend for that. Then the week after that, we're going to have Joe Woodard on, and we're going to be talking about the Unstoppable Advisor. I'm working with them to, as we all know, we've got Scaling New Heights coming up pretty darn quick. I'm excited for that, getting to be around community, share knowledge and wisdom with everybody. So I'm hoping to bring some of the other presenters on to talk about their sessions, everything else. So be sure to get registered. If you're, for some reason, you're seeing this and you're not a member of QB Community Live, join, answer those questions, please. We want you to do that. And any last words, gentlemen?
I'm excited to be in person with all of you at Scaling New Heights as well. Yeah.
So I'll be interviewing you when I'm there. So I Yes, right?
That's right. Well, I'm just crossing my fingers that Delta doesn't,
Agreed.
doesn't hamper the travel plan, but right now I've got the approval to go. So I'm really excited to be with all of you.
Fingers crossed. I'm looking forward to a really good Texas barbecue. You know who I'm talking about out there, and having some fun. On that note, everybody, thank you for joining us. And as always, here's wishing you all a very successful week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.